Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a computer programming instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to use static server-side rendering in Blazor. So, let's say we wanted to create a page. I'm going to create a new Razor component, and I'll just call it SSR demo page. And congratulations, you have a static server-side rendered page because it's the default. So I'm going to add an add page directive, which will allow us to navigate to this as a top-level page. And let's put some simple interactivity here. I'm going to put a button just a little bit of bootstrap style there to style the button. We'll make it type is button, and we'll set an on click equal to, and we'll make this a submit click method. It'll scream at us temporarily until we make that method, so we'll do that now. And we'll need to display something, so I'll put create a string. We'll default it to a message that says click the button. And up here we will just display the message. So we have a button, we have some text that's going to show up here, and when we click the button, what we want to have happen is just see that it will render. And what we're going to find out is this will not be rendered. Seems logical. We have a button. It's associated with an event. We have the event. It changes some text. It should change it. I'll run that. And we haven't created a demo for it, a button for it, so we'll just go straight to it. Here's our page, here's our button, here's the message that currently says click the button, and I click it, and you see it highlighted, so it's clearly been clicked, but nothing happens. Well, this is actually by design. A static server-side page is not really meant for this kind of interactivity. It's meant to just offer up a fairly static page. And that doesn't mean that you can't have interactivity on here completely, because it's still HTML. So we can actually click on this, but let's take a look at the documentation on this. If you go to the documentation page and you go to Microsoft Learn and you look up render modes in .NET 8, you'll see that static server-side rendering, SSR, it renders on the server and there's no interactivity. There's X here. And so it's kind of meant to be this way by design. Really what's happening is this is just a standard web page. And this is actually, your home page is statically rendered. If you make your own about page, which I did here, Oh, I guess not. If you make your own about page, you would typically want this to be, static page. Anything where you're just providing information and you're not really doing a lot of responsiveness, you might want it to be statically rendered. Now, there's some advantages to server-side rendering or static rendering. It's much better than most other formats for search engine optimization, and it renders fairly quickly because there's not a lot of complexity to it. So, so this should be your default unless you really need interactivity. Now, can we have some interactivity? Well, yes. You just use standard HTML format. So I'm going to change this up to a form. And I'm going to set an action equal to, and we will, you could come back to the same form, but just to kind of make it clear, I'm going to go to a new page, which we're going to call SSR response. It's eventually here. And I'm going to create an input. This is just some bootstrap styling to make it look okay. And we'll make a text input, and we will call it text just for the name. We could call it anything we wanted. And then we will make a input that we're going to style as a button. And we'll make it a submit input, which behaves like a button. And this actually won't do anything, so we can get rid of that. I suppose we can keep this message here. It's not really going to do much with this. And then we are going to make another page. Just make sure that it's the same. A little different capitalization. And let's see what happens. So we have this response page, and we have this demo page. And you can see it does, in fact, it's just behaving as a regular HTML form. It's doing a get request, and we haven't specified the type of action here, but the default is get. And you can see that it formed a query string out of this form. And since we call this, the name of this input is text, we see that there's a query string with a name text, and its value after the equal sign is what we typed into the form. So this, so obviously we can go to another page and we can have interactivity of a sort, but it's really just, basic HTML. Now, what can we do? Now, one of the things is, how do I get this value programmatically so I can do something with it? So if I go to the response page, what I can do is This is the supply parameter from query attribute, and we provided a name is equal to whatever this input is. So we're using this name attribute. And generally speaking, you want to make it a nullable string because it may or may not be a query string with the request. And so I'll just call it my parameter or my property, just to give it a generic name and show that it doesn't really matter what you name this, and it is not using this name in identifying it. It's using this one. But then we could put in here this, and it says, hey, take my property, whatever's in there, and display it in here. So when we run this, now we submit, we see that what we typed in shows up here, and now it's also it was pulled into this property when this form was loaded. So the query string, because we said supply this parameter from the query string, it's going to grab the thing that says this name text, and it's going to put it in my property, and then that they were saying here in Blazor code with this @ symbol saying, hey, please display that here. So that's being displayed there. So yes, you can have buttons, you can respond to them, but you don't have it's not like a C# event is being handled. It's being handled using just basic HTML responsiveness. So so that's static server-side rendering. Primarily, you're probably not going to do a lot of this in a Blazor application. You're going to use we're going to find that there are better interactivity modes when we want to be clicking on buttons and entering information into forms and data fields. But this is available to you, and maybe there's some instances where you do want a page to be statically rendered, but you want to be able to click on different options to go to different places. So so that's using static server-side rendering in Blazor. Thank you very much.